Hi, this is Marcia, and in today's episode of Show and Tell, we're going to do something a little different. We're a little burnt out of all of the news going around that are coronavirus related, so we're bringing you animals and mobility. This is our unofficial transit mascot, Pastelito, who's going to be joining us for today's Show and Tell, and I am going to start with a story of commuting animals. So commuting animals seem to be a trend. And just going to tell you 4 stories. This is Eclipse. Eclipse is a dog who was waiting for the bus once her owner was taking too long to finish a cigarette, and then she decided to take the bus. Oh, hold on, full screen. So Eclipse decided to take the bus, and then it became a thing where she would commute every day 4 blocks, or rather 4 stations to her local park. And then her owner would catch up with her. So at some point he figured out she can do this on her own and would just let her go and then go pick her up from the park. Next up is our friend Dodger. Dodger is a 15-year-old cat in the UK who he got adopted, and then he started hopping on the bus, and he would just go for an 11-mile round trip. And then like to the city center and back, he wouldn't get off. He would just like to ride the bus. So, you know, the bus drivers just make sure to let him off at the right stop when he's done with his full trip. Also in the UK, and you start to see that this is a trend, there's Casper. Casper did the exact same thing Dodger did, go for a round trip. He had his one seat that he always took. Casper suffered an unfortunate end. He was crossing the street to catch the bus and got hit by a car. And then lastly, there is Ratty, also in the UK. I don't know if all of you are sensing a theme. The UK animals really like to take the bus. And Ratty used to take the bus to the pub where he was fed sausages. Just goes on his own. Ratty also suffered an unfortunate end. He was hit by a car at the bus stop waiting for the bus. But I'm going to leave you here with a picture of Ratty, who, you know, enjoying sausages at the local pub. Lastly, I want to leave you with our very own Pastelito, who is also a rider. Pastelito takes the bus because we don't have a car and sometimes we need to go to the vet. That's Pastelito waiting for the bus. She has a very handy dandy backpack. And she's also a scooter rider and a bike rider. So some pictures of Pastelito. And that is it for my show and tell. So.
Pastelito has ridden more modes of transportation than the average Miamian.
Oh yeah, I'm confident.
Probably.
I'm just thinking, like in the UK, I feel like they just need some more like animal safety infrastructure at their bus stops is what it sounds like.
Well, I mean, animal and human, because just as that dog was hit and killed, like that could have been a person. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like, you got to take care of your customers.
On the
Are they paying customers though? I think they're draining.
No, so I read some articles. They were talking about like how a lot of them are elderly animals, so they would ride for free anyway.
Wait, so when dog age translates to human age, how are they determining this eligibility? I thought they would just do it by height, honestly. And it should be the inverse of humans. With humans, like the smaller ones get to ride for free. With animals, the bigger you are, you get to ride for free.
You know, that's funny though that you're talking about this. I've been thinking a lot about how pet policies in public transportation, and in Europe, you know, most countries you're allowed to bring your dog. And it's because it's a very bus and train dependent society. So if your dog does need to go to the vet or you need to take it to someone's house to take care of them, you can ride the bus and you can ride the train with them and it's fine. And some places like Zurich, for example, they do charge a pet fee. It's like a nominal fee, just like children, like they have a bus pass and you need to show that it has its rabies shot and all of these things, which makes sense. I mean, like if you want a society where people can depend on public transportation, you need to kind of acknowledge that our trips are not A to B. We're not only going to work or the supermarket, like our life expands beyond that and there are multiple needs.
So from present day strange first world British animals riding public transportation to something old world and more novel. Go ahead, Derek.
Alrighty, so for today's show and tell, I'm going to be talking about the Great Horse Manure Crisis of 1894. And am I sharing my screen right now? Beautiful. So Right here, we have a street in Manhattan that is caked from sidewalk to sidewalk with horse manure. And the reason why it's caked with horse manure is because around the turn of the 20th century, industrial cities like London and New York, they had a whole bunch of horses riding around, transporting stuff, carrying people, bunch of carriages, right? And horses drop about 15 to 20 pounds of manure a day per horse and about 2 gallons of urine. And if you mix that with 100,000, 200,000 horses walking through the cities, you have a huge environmental problem, because when it rains, you have a slurry of poop water running everywhere. And when it's hot and dry, you have dusty poop particles being breathed in by the population, which is a huge environmental problem. On top of the fact that a working horse only lived around 4 years around this time, so you also had like dead horse bodies everywhere. It was a bad time. So around this time, good old Ford comes up with his Model T. People start driving cars more around 1912. We see that cars overtake horses on the streets, and it becomes this like out of nowhere revolutionary solution to this huge environmental issue that no one had any idea how we were going to solve, which I find extremely ironic, because here we are today with all of these cars on the road posing an even bigger environmental crisis that's worldwide. And we're now at a point right now where it's where the alternative is kind of looking us in the face again. And as we see people kind of transitioning to bicycles, transitioning to public transportation, seeing that their commutes aren't really happening as they are right now with the whole stay-at-home order stuff, it's like, are we slipping into the solution the same way we kind of slipped into a solution to an environmental problem in the past, with our current solution being the vehicle? But yeah, that's my show and tell. Any thoughts?
I mean, I wouldn't want to live in New York in the 1800s.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, that's like, you think about all the things that were terrible about like living, like, I don't know, just way back when, but this is one of the ones you never think about. But it's like, look at this street, man. Look at this. You walk outside in the morning, you know what I'm saying? Like, here, I'm walking out today, and this is my street. It's messed up.
How long did it take for all of this to change? Like after the introduction of the Model T?
It happened pretty quick, because like I said, like this I don't know the exact year the Model T came out, but it had to be like within the first decade of the 1900s. And if it overtook like the horse population by 1912, you have to think this happened relatively overnight, because it was like, I can get from A to B and like no poop comes out along the way. That's like life-changing for a whole lot of people, I bet.
Well, I'm sure this was a health crisis too. Like, I can imagine the amount of disease. Well, we all know that there was tons of disease at the time, but just the reduction in that, I'm sure, did bring a lot of health benefits. It's just funny how,
and plus, I guess the auto industry would take any reason to like bolster themselves and like position themselves as like an answer to a problem. Just like, you know what I'm saying? When it came to people talking about the issues of automobiles, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, where it was like, people are starting to die, pedestrians are starting to get hit. What are we going to do with these automobiles? They turned their marketing campaign toward like making the car again like the answer to your problems, and the problem is a pedestrian. In this case, I think it was easy enough for them to say like, yo, like cars don't poop.
Right.
It's just
oh man,
simple.
It seems like we never learn. We never learn. Okay, so on to some systemic horse problems, on to some more localized emotional problems. Maria, on to you.
Awesome. So today I'm going to be talking about a crisis that a lot of our pets are facing. So this past week, I was reading an article about how pets are sort of dealing with quarantine, and more broadly with like the stay-at-home order and things like that. So as I'm sure for a lot of folks that have pets, we've been staying home a lot. We're not really going outside. Our daily routines have changed a lot. And as this cat is showing in this picture, that's throwing our pets for a loop. So, some people have reported that, their cats and their pets in general are like pacing a lot. They're like mounting random objects. They're like scratching and like grooming themselves like much more frequently than they would have in the past. And this is what some researchers call like displacement behaviors. And it's kind of like related to the fact that, anxieties like trigger different behaviors in pets, right? And because this is an extremely stressful time for a lot of us, pets are experiencing like heightened levels of anxieties. And it's likely due to the fact that pets can like sort of like sense like our own stress. So it's this process that's called like emotional contagion. So obviously a lot of us are stressed out because, you know, the state of the world and things like that. So that's also really affecting our pets. And something that I thought was really interesting is, you know, somebody that was interviewed in this article was saying that, you know, they had like walked their dog for like 30 to 40 minutes. And then when their dog came back inside, like they were ready to like go back out again. And it's because like dogs and pets in general are like really anxious. Like they want to continue moving. They see a lot of like people out in the streets, and they can kind of sense that things are off. So, you know, like during this time, like everyone is really having a difficult time sort of like adjusting, and pets are no stranger to this fact. So something that, you know, researchers recommend is to try to have, you know, as similar of a routine as possible, because, you know, hopefully when we get out of this, pets are they're gonna have a really hard time sort of like adjusting to that normalcy again, because I mean, we're spending like 50% more time with our pets than we were before. So it's like there's going to be like a gradual like weaning when we all like go back to work and things like that. So just a tip, you know, try to implement a regular routine with your pets. So feed them at the same time, walk them at the same time, and try to, you know, help them be less clingy as we get through this coronavirus. So yeah, that's my show and tell.
What you mean, Maria, is that I really shouldn't have my dog on my lap as part of show and tell, in order to like, keep her mental health.
I mean, it's really challenging, right? Because if you think of, I mean, they're like pets ultimately are like kids, right? And they're just gonna have a hard time like getting like readjusted to the new normal, like in a couple of months too. So yeah, like something that I read too was like, you know, trying to like leave your house for a little bit to like, you know, your pet kind of like starts getting reintroduced to the fact that they're gonna have to stay home alone for a while, like in the coming months. So yeah, maybe I would definitely spend some quality time, but definitely start sort of like distancing yourself as much as possible.
Derek, you almost had something.
Yeah, Derek, were you gonna say something?
It's just like in the beginning you said like pets are starting to mount random objects, like you just kind of brushed over that, like people are just noticing their pets just walking around just humping stuff. That's a part of like the stress response.
So something that they said in the article, there were like different behaviors, right? It was like pacing, scratching, and like mounting. So because, you know, we don't spend like all day with our pets, like we don't know what they do when we're not home. So now that we're all home all the time, like owners are starting to see that their pets are like doing like really random shit, and part of that is like mounting. They didn't go into the specifics.
That's my thing though. They've been doing that already,
yeah.
is my thing. Like you just didn't know.
Right.
They were like on your bed, mounting your pillow.
Yeah, probably.
All right, guys, we are out of time. So on an ordinary day when we're not talking about pets and mobility, we are fighting for things like more accessible testing, like better public transit, especially during a time like this, like streets for people and for pets, I guess. So if you'd like to support our work, become a patron, starts at just $2 a month, transalliance.miami/join. And next week, we'll maybe be back to normal, where we talk about some of the mobility things that we're keeping an eye on. But in the meantime, to all of the pets out there watching, goodbye and see you next